Well, good morning everybody and welcome to an epic start to the week, because over there is the most precious thing that we could have seen. There goes Thandi and little cub. So for those of you that have been stressing about the cub, and for you that have been thinking that she's gone off Djuma, she is most certainly not. She is right in the center of Djuma. She is walking around very close to Philemon's dip, and the little one is doing just fine and Thandi is just fine, and they're bounding their way through the bush, and I think maybe Thandi has got herself a carcass somewhere. So we're going to try and follow her and see how far we can go. Now, I almost forgot to, in all the excitement, to say hello. My name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Fergus, who's back from leave. Welcome back, Ferg. What a way to start your leave, well, your work cycle when you come back from leave, with a little Thandi and cub action. Now, remember, you can get hold of us, #SafariLive, or on YouTube chat. And at the end of the day, we're also leading up to our TV shows that air on the 4th to the 8th of Feb at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that is your chance to maybe come out and see a leopard for your own by playing Safari Bingo. So remember, go to natgeo.com/SafariLive to find out all the details about that. Right, now before they disappear on us and we lose them, let's try and catch up quickly. She seems to be moving quite quickly. We found her coming from Philemon's sort of cutline Weaver's Nest area, coming through the dip and then heading this way. So I have a funny feeling that she might have a kill somewhere that she's leading this little cub to, and that's why we've bumped into her walking down the road and moving in this area. And while I try and kind of get back to where she is, let's cut across to old Noel, who's also out this morning, and I think she's also on a predator mission, but the more tawny colored ones for her.
Good morning everyone. I am Noelle, and today we have a very special guest on camera. We have Gert. Hello Gert, good morning. He's saying good morning, and I'm on a mission for these lions. I've picked up tracks just south of us here, and I'm busy trying to come around and see if I can find them. Hopefully they'll also be on a kill. But how exciting, Thandi and her cub after a couple of days. Well done, Tristan. Now we've got a beautiful little sunrise with some vultures popped up in a silhouette just over here on my left-hand side that I thought you all would enjoy. They would have been resting there for the evening, and then as it warms up today, they'll start moving around. So it doesn't mean that a kill is here. If the lions were seen last night on quarantine near camp, sort of just lying there, and vultures don't fly at night. So if this was the afternoon drive and we found these vultures here, because there's a couple more around as well, then yes, I would maybe think that there's a kill, but this was just their resting spot for the evening. So if I don't find the lions right away, maybe they'll help me find the lions in a little while when it warms up. So I hope all of you had a really good sleep. If any of you had a nighttime between our shows, if any of you had daytime between our shows, I hope your day is being productive and going well. And I think now I'm going to head off and keep searching for these lions before it gets too warm. Now I'm surprised that they haven't managed to get anything quite yet. They were very hungry, as you know, these Nkuhumas. And for anyone that might just be joining us, might be new with us, the Nkuhumas is a pride of lions that we share with other properties that come to us every now and then. And we've been so lucky they've been with us now for almost a week and giving us lots of lion action, which is fabulous. And Nkuhuma is the local word for a brown ivory tree, because the pride was found underneath a brown ivory many years ago. There's 5 lionesses for now, 5 lionesses, and then there's one little cub that's probably about 3 months old, and then a few sub-adults and a couple of juveniles. So it's a large, not a large, huge pride, but it is a good-sized pride. And those females like things like zebra, giraffe, buffalo, wildebeest. They're very active. They've been also hunting male Nyala in this area quite a bit. And the trajectory of those tracks were coming straight through here. So I'm not picking up anything at the moment, but I want to have a look inside the drainage line and see if we manage to... Sorry, hold on one sec. Do you remember the sounds that we would talk about from time to time? The ooh, ooh, that's a contact call. And the ooh, ooh, that carries on into a roar. I thought I just heard a little bit of a contact call, but I think maybe I'm just overeager this morning and super excited to potentially find these lions. And we got a little bit of rain last night, which is good. And a little teeny bit of rain this morning, which is very good. Still not enough. We still need more. But I will take a little bit over nothing at all. All right. Just checking in the drainage here. I have a feeling that they possibly, when they were coming this way, that they then got down into the drainage system and possibly moved a little bit more west. So I think what I'm going to do from here, when I'm done just scouting out, is then move a little bit more west. Now let's hope that they didn't go across our northern border into Biffleshoek or into past our western border into Aratuza. Let's hope that they're still here. And I would also be keen, I haven't had an update on the sticks in a while. If I do manage an update on the sticks, I will let you know. And then some of you were asking me yesterday after show if I'd heard anything on Shadow. For those of you who don't know Shadow is one of our resident female leopards. It's Thandi's sister. If I knew where she was, and the last I heard she was to our south in Hoffman's. And then little Hassana, a young male that's with us from time to time, was seen in a little gallery, so he might pop up on Djuma today. All right, now while I'm busy searching everywhere, let's head back to Tristan, who has the wonderful Thandi and that adorable little cub. You can go enjoy them.
Well, so we are still with Thandi and cub. They're slowly moving through the bush at the moment. You can see her just going past that termite mound. The little cub has already bounded off in front. It does its own thing half the time, and it was quite funny. I was watching it just now, and it was the cutest little moment. Thandi went up to go and sharpen her claws and just to kind of get everything sorted out, and the little cub went and mimicked her, and the two of them were kind of side by side doing the exact same thing, both kind of marking on this little tree and scraping their claws, and then the cub went jumping up into the tree, and it's just kind of a lot more playful than Thandi, but it was still very, very cute to see. And I'm so glad that we've managed to pick up this little one, because everybody I know has been quite stressed about it, and it's nice to see that everything is fine after we had the tracks the other day and everything like that. That little one is still being as naughty as ever and is absolutely fine. There's no sort of injuries or anything like that to worry about. So it obviously was just hiding away from mom and being naughty the other afternoon when mom was trying to call her out. And we know that this little one has a sort of life of its own and certainly doesn't always listen to what mom has got to say. So it's quite funny just to see how it behaves. You can see everything is a game. It jumps on everything. It sort of crashes into the bush, goes around, up the trees, down the trees, watches this, watches that. Mom gets tackled every now and then. It's all just games at this stage of life, I would imagine. So, you think she's a little tomboy? I don't know if she's a little tomboy. I think she's just playful. I think she's got her own demeanor, and she's definitely going to be a handful. Now that she's getting bigger and stronger and can climb, Thandi's going to have a long sort of period of looking after her. I think Thandi's going to probably pull her hair out a few times with this little one, because it really does do whatever it wants, and it's not really interested in listening to what mom's got to say half the time. When mom kind of calls, it will just do what it wants, and it sometimes comes, sometimes it doesn't. But I think they're going to a carcass. Well, that's what I believe. They are starting to head straight up towards camp, which is quite cool. So we're going to hopefully see them going up towards sort of the camp and spending some time there. Now, I believe a lot of you are oohing and ahhing. It's hard not to ooh and ah when it comes to this female and her little one. They are such a cute sort of pairing, and this little one's got so much sort of attitude and a little bit of life to it that it's difficult not to kind of get attached to them as they kind of do their thing. But let's see if we can try and maybe catch up. They are starting to drift quite far now, and we've got to go quite far around because it's a bit dense where I am. So I'm going to have to do a little loop around, and we've got to try and make sure that we don't destroy an earpiece, because while you guys were gone, I managed to break. Now, I'm sure Jared will forgive me, because this morning Jared, who was being a kind soul and was just moving Rusty for me while I was quickly grabbing one or two things, unfortunately spilt an entire cup of tea that I had just made. And so I feel like, Jared, if I break this earpiece and you spill my tea, we're all sort of one for one. There you can see the tea stains from where it was spilt. I think we're now even. I know Jared is watching, so he'll probably be laughing about it. I feel bad because I thought he maybe burnt himself. So he says he's unsure if that is an equal trade-off. Well, I'm Jared, I'm not sure either. I'm just going to try and wiggle my way out of being in trouble for actually doing or breaking an earpiece. But before we go anywhere else, I just want to show you the most beautiful sunrise that we've got at the moment. There's a few clouds. We had a bit of rain last night, and so that sun is just coming up now with this beautiful cloud system. There's a dead tree there. Thandi's kind of going through a bit of a thicket, which I want her to clear before I go around it, because if I punch through it, it's going to make a lot of noise, and I don't really want to disturb her. So I'm just waiting for her to get through a little bit of a thicket before I carry on. But isn't that absolutely magnificent? Dead tree, beautiful golden sunrise, a few clouds. That's what dreams are made of, isn't it, Ferg? Yes, I think so. Right. Sunrise is good. There's a nice little hole in that tree. I wonder what that is. It's like a perfect hole. It's one of those, yes. Well, we'll discuss that just now. Right, well, while I sit here with this and admire the sunrise and catch up with Thandi, let's send you all the way over to the Masai Mara and to Ralph, who seems to have gotten off the day with an absolute bang and a spotted kitty of his own.
And welcome aboard once again for another sunrise safari here in Kenya, in the Masai Triangle, or the Mara Triangle to be exact. And we just returned to where that leopard was yesterday afternoon, and goodness, here he is, and now he's showing himself beautifully for us. And remember, you are watching Safari Live, and my name is Ralph Kirsten, and on the camera we have Adrian. Morning, Adrian. Now, please don't forget to join us on the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and on the YouTube live chat. Send us your questions and your comments and join us on the largest and greatest game drive in the world. Now, this has been an absolutely fantastic start to the morning. We left him here yesterday afternoon. That baby giraffe that he had obviously killed was hanging a little bit lower than it is now. We've seen it a little bit off to the left in this tree. He's pulled it up there. You can see just one of its legs hanging down off to the left in that bush. There it is there. It seems like Mommy's disappeared from the walking up and down in the background, pining for him, for her little youngster. But this leopard leopard that I've seen in Kenya and in the Masai Mara, and the second one in the Mara Triangle. It could quite easily be the same leopard that we saw with Jamie, that this one is. But he is quite far off, quite difficult for us to see, but he's been at least giving us beautiful visuals this morning. Very nice of him to lie out on the branch like that for us, but now looking like he might be going back to possibly have a bite to eat. It's nice and fresh this morning, but at least it's gone through the night with no problems from the lions or hyenas, and now with that giraffe being higher up in the tree, maybe there were some predators around and that's why it's pulled it up higher. Get it out of the reach of anything that may have come to walk around the base of the tree. Look at that, climbing skills. Much better than the lions, that's all I can say. Yesterday afternoon when we saw the carcass here, it looked like it had only just been disemboweled, and possibly the leopard having eaten on the liver and kidneys and heart and those kind of organs, which they very often do first up, because if they had to get chased off that kill, at least then they've got those very rich organs that they've fed on, and then from there, then they'll normally go onto the rump, and then onto the smaller pieces of meat and so on. But always normally getting into those very rich organs to start up. Now, smaller predators will also do that, like caracal. If they get if they kill something like this, they normally open it up, disembowel it immediately, and then go for those rich organs. And the rump and the real meat coming normally fed on a little bit later. Let's look at this climbing skills. No, he's actually going down. Maybe he needs to go for a drink. Look at that. But once down there, it's almost impossible to see him. Now we just wait to see whether or not he's going to show himself again. Might be off for a drink. Could be off to do anything now. And that might be the last we see of it for a little while. Now, PT Watcher, you want to know if there's any lions here that may steal this leopard's kill? PT Watcher, there's always that possibility, but that's why I think maybe they've pulled that giraffe a little bit higher. Well, he's pulled that giraffe a little bit higher up in the tree. It could have been hyenas or lions. It maybe been around the base. We have seen some of the lions climbing the tree, the Nkuhuma Pride, which I think Taylor is out looking for this morning. They've been climbing the trees, the shepherd's trees, though. This isn't a shepherd's tree. A little bit more difficult for the lions to climb this tree. And I think that giraffe is pretty safe in that position there, because this leopard, obviously an old wily customer, probably quite used to the attention of leopard and lion and hyena, so taking up nice and high. Okay, everyone, I'm going to wait here a little bit longer and see if this leopard re-emerges. Otherwise, I might head to the hyena den in the meantime. But while we do that, let's head you on over to Taylor and see how her search has started out this morning.
Well, we've managed to find something with feathers and a bright red beak and a very long tail. It is a beautiful male pin-tailed wider. Not quite as exceptional as all the leopards you've seen today. My goodness, it has been absolutely incredible. But I like those birds, and I think it's quite nice to see them. Lovely contrast of the black and white and the red against that bright green grass. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Craig, and you've just joined us on the Sunrise Safari, and it seems as though our little friend was quite happy. So what we're going to do on this live and interactive show is we're going to drive the route that I like to drive pretty much most mornings. And so for those of you who have never joined us on a safari, I'm very excited to have you on board, and I look forward to having some chats with you too. So make sure you get those questions through. If you're a little bit sleepy because it's quite late or perhaps it's quite early, wipe the sleep away from your eyes, get a cup of coffee and join in on all the chats. Right, there's a few cars coming past us. Woo! It's the balloon crew. Most of you are used to seeing them pass us by. We'll just get past this next one. They're all from Little Governors, and you may be able to see in the distance. We'll stop and show you in a minute. All the balloons floating past, which is quite cool. Okay, well, the balloons aren't going to float too far away from us. We should get a Noel, however, has got a bird that likes to spend most of its time out at night.
We found a little nightjar, and we don't usually see them during the day at all. We found its little resting place, so I'm super excited because it is something we usually only see at night. And you can actually see around its beak these little whiskers. They're called pectoral bristles. See that coming off there. So what they do, and they're quite long, they're from the beak and then down the side of the beak there towards the eye. And they're quite long, and they lie on the side of the road, well, sometimes in the middle of the road as well, and they wait for insects to come across their path, and those help them feel those insects, and then they catch them, and then there it flies off. It's actually just landed right in front of me, about here, I think, yeah, there, somewhere in there, in the tall grass. Let's see if we can see it again. It's just near the bare patch. It should be right in there. There, I think. Nope, it's in front of that. Sorry guys, it's camouflaged so well. I think it's just down there. There's its eyeball. There at the bottom of the screen. There we go. There it is. You see how well that camouflages? So I watched it fly, and then obviously I can see it right here, and that's how they protect themselves during the day. And then when it gets cooler, they will pop out at night again. Now it looked like a rufous cheek to me. But it could also be a fiery necked. I didn't quite catch the banding on the side of the wings there. But a very cool find, and another one to add to our 2018 bird list, or possibly for our long-term list. Excellent stuff. Okay, I'm going to keep carrying on to hopefully find these lions, and while I'm doing that, let's head on over to Tristan and the very beautiful Thandi.
Well, we're still mobile, still moving. We've had some seriously beautiful moments of her going up onto a termite mound and just posing there. And this little cub is so relaxed. It walked past the car just now as close as you could ever imagine. In fact, almost underneath the car. So it is incredible just to see how she is. And Thandi also has been very chilled, considering a little bouncing white tail through the bush. Almost a bit like a honey badger, this little cub, because it just bounces everywhere. It's not much walking. It's all bouncing that goes on. Very Tigger-like. There we go. Bouncing. And trying just to keep up with Mom. Mom does walk quite fast though, so I'm not surprised that she has to kind of do this. Now, we're going to try and squeeze through this little monkey orange that is here without losing another earpiece. The monkey oranges are the ones that damage these earpieces because they've got these little kind of hard branches and spines, and as they kind of come along they grab the cable and then the cable breaks right next to them. So it's not ideal to have a lot of them around, but we should be clear of most of it because we're now heading down towards the Mulawati. We've kind of gone over the crest and now we'll head downwards, but I'm hoping there's another termite mound again because Thandi's going up onto every termite mound, scanning around, and it really is the most beautiful thing when she's up on these mounds. It's incredibly pretty when she goes up. Just now there was a bit of sunlight that broke as she went on top, and it was really absolutely exquisite. So we're going to try and just quickly catch up with her. She's moving away from us at the moment, but I'm trying to take path of least resistance just from a point of view that I don't want to make too much noise. I'd rather we kind of don't have to crash through bushes than really crashing through a whole bunch. But she should come out nicely into the open for us shortly, which will be really cool. So there she is, just on my right hand side, and I'm going to park off right over here. Now hopefully she should come right through this gap in front of me and should be absolutely perfect in terms of having a little leopard and cub coming past. How cool is that? Come on, little one. You can see everything has to be climbed as well. We can't just go the nice easy way. We have to go up logs, down logs, around logs. It can't just be kind of walk like Mom does. You've got to make sure that you climb everything on the way, because that's, well, if you're a little cub, that's the best way to be doing things. Now they're going to go around. Ferg, let's just try and catch up with them because there's a little opening clearing just on the other side of where they're going now as well. So if I just get round this side, I should be absolutely perfect. I'm just going to stop ourselves right over here because theoretically she should come right past us. There's a little game path that runs here and I don't want to cut her off in any way or go where she shouldn't, well, where she wants to go. And so just stop right here and look at that. Isn't that wonderful? How cool. So good to see this little one is fine. And hyenas, and so the fact that she's kind of been able to thread this little cub through all the lions and make sure that it's now perfectly safe. Oh, careful, little one, don't get in Mom's way. Mom is on a mission, and the fact that that little one has been threaded through and right back into the center parts of Djuma is absolutely wonderful news, because I was a little bit worried that maybe she would go into Torchwood or she might head off into sort of Little Gowrie or south of us, but I think Little Gowrie at the moment is just far too much pressure from other leopards for her to go there. I think she knows that this central area is much easier in order to try and kind of look after cubs and to make sure this little one stays safe than going into where Shadow is and Hosana and Tingana, and Shadow's cub is just a lot more threats down there leopard wise than they are here. So for her it's much better that she stays this side. Right, now let's just try and catch up again. That's the thing with Thandi, is when Thandi seems to want to walk, she does go very quickly, and it takes a while to kind of keep up with her and make sure that you can kind of stay where she is and sort of know exactly where she's going. There's another little gap here that should help us. So we're going right towards the Wahlberg's nest now, and basically towards the dam. That's kind of the direction we're heading. Whether we'll get there is anyone's guess, but hopefully we do get to the dam. Now let's just see if we can get straight through there. Look at that. Cody, you're wondering if Thandi is still denning or is she just using temporary hideouts while she goes and hunts and then comes back and gets them? Well, I don't think she's denning as she was a few months ago. She's far more mobile with this cub. You can see the cub is moving quite easily, and so we're not finding her sticking in one place for weeks on end at the moment. She's kind of going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and so I think this cub is out of a den now, but it is in hiding spaces, so it's still too young to go with mom when she's doing patrols and hunting and all of that kind of thing, but it is of the age now where Thandi can kind of move it, leave it in a termite mound or in a sort of tree somewhere, and then come back to it once she's finished hunting or found food or something like that. So she does definitely have the ability to move this cub a lot more, and we're certainly seeing that. She's not sticking in one place like she has in the past 3 months. She's now far more mobile with the way things are going. There goes the little one, just bounding along as normal. How cute is that? Poked purple, well, the cub is probably a little small to be hunting anything at this stage. I think a situation is that little cub will be interested in things and certainly try and chase after lizards and birds and those kind of things, but it's still too small to really know what it's doing, and the chance of it being successful is pretty slim. In saying that, though, I have seen Tiani, who's Salehesh's daughter, not this little leopard cub, another one that we used to see when I was at Simamili, and that little cub at 4 months old killed a duiker. Yes, mom chased it and grabbed it, but the cub had the instinct to actually kill it and got it by the neck and killed the duiker itself. So I suppose it's not far off that now and could potentially do it, but I don't think it's hunting and killing just yet. It's most certainly Thandi is doing the bulk of it and will continue to do the bulk of it all the way up until this little one gets over a year old. She's going to be kind of providing for it, and it's a long commitment. Well, I suppose not as long as humans, but it certainly is a fair amount of time that spend trying to feed this little one. And like I say, she's going to have her hands full because this little one is full of the joys of life and does bounce around all over the place. Right, now she's going to come out right into the open and right past us here, so I'm just going to stop right here. There we go. Look at that. Thandi is so beautiful. She's sometimes is quite a serious cat, but she's absolutely, thought she might come straight across the front of us, but she's just kind of going to the east, and there goes the little one. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Hello, guys. What a wonderful moment. Just to see her stopping by mom, and kind of you can then see the size difference. She's growing quickly though. She's already a lot bigger than the first few times we saw her, but it's definitely starting to put on some size in the last couple of weeks. Even since I went on leave and came back, she's definitely gotten a lot bigger. And Thandi, well, she looks as fit and as good as ever. Zaz, wondering if Thandi would still carry the cub in the mouth, or is it too big? Zaz, I think it's not only the fact that it's probably getting a little big, although she would be able to pick it up and carry it. It's not that large. I think it's just that this cub is so feisty, she doesn't allow it to be picked up at all. We've seen her trying a few times, and the cub just kind of swats her on the nose. So this little one is not being picked up by anybody. It's like, Mom, I've got 4 legs. I can do this myself. Don't worry. And so I think it's a situation where she'll still try and kind of walk herself, and I don't think she'll be picking this little one up anytime soon, unless there's really something that is wrong, or something that Thandi is trying to get it away from, or if the cub is really being belligerent and she needs to get it somewhere, then she might pick it up and move it a little bit. Right, we're almost on the road. It seems as though she's going back to her old den site that she used for a while, so that's where we're heading. We've come out a little bit south of the Wahlberg's nest and a little further south than I initially anticipated, but we are heading straight towards where that old den site is. I wonder if she's maybe going to go stash the cub there for a few days, or what the story is going to be, but let's see. In fact, we are at the Wahlberg's nest. We're right here. I thought we were a little bit, we are exactly at the Wahlberg's nest, which is good news. The problem is if she crosses over the road here, it's not very easy to follow her, but we'll try our very best. Also, Tax is waiting to try and come and get a view of this little one and Thandi, and so if she does cross here, we'll probably make some space for him so he can get a chance, and then we'll come back a little bit later if we can. But she's coming out straight towards me now. I can just see her through the bush. You see her there, Ferg? She's just straight through there. So you can just see her straight through into the thicket. It's not very open here, but it's a good place nonetheless to come. Now, wouldn't it be amazing if she climbed the Wahlberg's nest or tree and went up towards the Wahlberg's nest? It wouldn't be the first time that something like that has happened. This is just so special. Like I say, what a way to start our week. It's the perfect way. Couldn't ask for anything better than getting going and coming down the road and just might be going to the dam. I wonder if maybe it's time for a little drink. Let's see, they're going to come out right next to us here. Oh, look at that. Look how she checks and makes sure whenever she gets to a little open clearing, she just double checks, makes 100% sure that there's nothing around that can be dangerous to this little cub, and then she looks at the cub and says, okay, come, now it's time, you can come with us. Look, she's walking straight at us. Little cubs bounding towards us. It just goes to show how relaxed they can be when we give them a bit of space. Oh, this is wonderful. Look at that. Now, Thandi is no more than, I would say, 5 meters from where I am. She's literally just crossing right behind the vehicle and to my right hand side. You can see she's just looking at my legs there, which we shall not move much at all. And then here goes little cubby. I do apologize if you see an aerial shortly, because there's the back of the car, so you can see what I was saying is that they're not exactly far away, that's for sure. They are fairly close by. And there goes Thandi's bum. Now, are you two going to walk down the road, or what's your story? Like I say, we will have to allow taxi in because I'm worried she goes into this drainage and we lose her. So I think what we're going to probably do is make a bit of space for Tax, and then we'll try and come back a little bit later once he's been in. Now, while I try and kind of get out of here and speak to Tax on the radio and everything like that, let's go across to the mystic boer, Stefan, who's out and about, and I'm sure is thoroughly enjoying the fact that we've had a bit of rain for his bushwalk.
Good morning, and yes, it's a lovely, lovely day from Bushwalk side. I'm Steph, and isn't it fantastic news that we've got Thandi and Cub back on the property after so much time looking for them yesterday between myself and Tristan and everyone else over the last couple of days, and I'm sure you're all just as relieved as what we are to find out that cute little Cub is perfectly fine and okay. I'm looking forward to hearing from Tristan on exactly what has been going on with it and how, what condition these little ones are in at the moment. We've had an interesting morning so far. We got out and about quite early, a beautiful sunrise this morning, and now what we're doing is we're basically circling around the area where the Nkuhuma Pride was seen last night. The last tracks that we have of them are moving that way across this open area. That's north, across quarantine clearings, and it looks like they've gone into the drainage line areas on the other side of camp. So we'll be tracking them through the course of the day and the course of the drive, at least anyway. And hopefully before the end of drive, we can show you some lions on foot. And hopefully they've also had some luck last night and has managed to catch themselves some breakfast. It would be a nice thing to see as well. Don't forget, we are just as live as what everyone else is at the moment during the show, and even though we are on foot in the middle of the Kruger National Park, you can still interact with us by sending us questions and comments, thoughts and experiences, and we'll try and get through as many of those as we can while we're walking around as well. Now, just as I think it was Noel that was mentioning this morning, just as Noel was mentioning, we had some rain last night. Twice it sort of came over in 2 or 3 waves. It's absolutely true, and the grass is this lovely soft, has this lovely soft saturated feel at the moment. However, we didn't really get a lot of rain. As you can see, what you're looking at right now, Seb is busy showing you the grass, and the grass has absorbed some, but you can't even see any moisture at all. And if you dig down into the soil in an exposed piece, you can see that very, very shallow, the moisture has stopped penetrating into the ground. So this is how we measure rainfall in millimeters here. And you can see that is less than 10 millimeters of rain. So in total, we probably had about 4 to 5 millimeters of rain. And that is not nearly enough at this time of the year. See how dry it is underneath the soil surface there. So, while it should do okay for the grass's roots, and thankfully tied them over for just a little bit longer, it's definitely not enough. We need, half a meter of rain, this much. All right, what we're going to be doing is sending you over to Noel, who's managed to find our targets for today. So without further ado, and luckily so you don't have to follow around me sweating through the bush today, off you go to Noel.
Yay, look what we found. I'm very excited. Very excited, and it does look like they managed at least a snack. You can see the youngster that's standing there, that juvenile that's standing there, you can see that the belly is hanging, not fat, but hanging a little bit low. So I'm glad they managed something. And I'm also glad that they've decided to be out in the open where they are. We've been searching and searching, and I know Steph and Herbie have been searching and searching. And luckily we've got them. There's the tiny little cub. So this is the Nkuhuma Pride. And everybody is present except for Amber Eyes. Amber Eyes is one of the lionesses that has this gorgeous color to her eyes, like amber. And she at last was seen mating with one of the Birmingham males. Not far from here, but we haven't picked up on her in a couple of days. So hopefully we'll manage to find them at some point again. Ling Fang, good question. You want to know why is it so hard for the lions to find food on Djuma? Well, Ling Fang, it can be hard for lions anywhere. Lions are not successful 100% of the time. A pride this size with this many youngsters, so let's say Amber Eyes was also present, you've got the 5 females together, their success rate of those 5 females together is only around 20%. It's not going to get much higher than that. So they move around, whether it's on Djuma or any of our neighboring properties, and they will hunt and they will stalk, but they're not always going to get what they're looking for. Then because there's so many youngsters in this pride, they eat quite a bit, just like growing humans. Growing lions also need quite a lot of meat. So if they only get something small, then a lot of that meat's going to go to the youngsters, and then they have to kill something again. So the females do look for full-grown zebra, and they look for giraffe, and they look for large prey species so that they can be full for a long time. Lions can go at the maximum up to about 2 weeks without feeding, but that's really pushing it. They usually will be successful once or twice a week. Now, you will find scenarios, especially when we go into a drought, where they'll be more successful because the prey species are concentrated fully around very scarce water sources. Also, during the dry season, our winter season, which will be in a few months, that's the case as well, and then they tend to do a little bit better. You'll find where Taylor and Ralph are up in the Mara, you'll sometimes run into scenarios where during, say, the migration, which happens end of July through September, they are just full all the time because there's so many wildebeest and zebra around. But then as the migration moves on, it can sometimes be a little bit trickier for them to find food. Margaret, good question. You want to know if the full moon affects hunting abilities with lions. So, on and off throughout my career, I've had many different opinions expressed about this, and I've just sort of kept an eye on it myself. So, from my personal experience, the answer is no. I've seen lions hunting at full moon, and I've seen them hunting at dark moon, and I've seen them hunting anywhere in between. I do have friends who've been in the industry for a while who say that during full moon they'll tend to have more of a break. There's a diker making a mad dash down the road. He came out of that drainage line and saw these lions and was like, oh no. Okay, the diker got away. Not that they would necessarily go for the diker. It's a little bit small, but the youngsters might want to try. So we're coming up to full moon now. They've seen something, sorry. could have just been that diker moving. There could also be something else down in the drainage line we can't see. But it was cloudy last night, which means that was possibly helpful. It was also windy and rainy. That was also helpful for them to get a snack. And then it was also, because of that cloud cover, it means anyone that's doing any anti-poaching work had probably a quieter night than they would normally have during full moon. Okay, whatever was moving down there, they're not that interested in anymore. Now, even though they managed a snack last night, I do think that if anything comes their way, they will definitely try again. All these hungry mouths around. They also digest their food pretty quickly, being mostly a protein diet. And that's one of the reasons why they stuff themselves when they do eat. This young male that's in front of us here is having a little bit of a rest, but I just want you guys to take a look at the mane that's starting to form. We looked at it a little bit the other day. You see his little peach fuzz coming through there around the bottom of his chin. And then notice around the coloration around that is looking like he had his head stuck into something. Now, a lot of the adult females are starting to groom themselves, which means that they're possibly going to get moving at some point. And I think, as long as you all are okay with it, and I don't think you'll say no to me, I think we're going to stick with these Nkuhumas for most of our drive this morning. And while we're busy waiting to see if they get moving, Ralph is going to his favorite place in the world up in the Masai Mara. So I think let's head on up to him so that we can join him in his excursion.
Yes, everybody, we did. We didn't see that leopard show himself again, so we decided to go on out towards the Tanzanian border, go and catch up with the hyenas at the den. That is my favorite place around here. So we'll just go and see what they're up to, and once they go quiet, or if they go quiet, or if there's nothing happening there, then we can make our way back towards where that leopard was, because he's now cached or stored that giraffe up in the tree, and it's well out of reach of anything that hyena or lion could possibly get to. Maybe a very good tree climbing lion would get up there, but I seriously doubt it. So I think it's pretty safe to say that that leopard may be gone for a drink, or was not liking the attention of the vehicles that were there this morning. So with everybody having disappeared, maybe he'll go for a drink, and I'm sure he'll be returning shortly to that giraffe. So we'll also do that. We'll go off while he has gone off to do his thing, go and check up on the hyenas, and then return there a little bit later. It has been an absolutely beautiful start. Cloud in the sky, and it's quite cool because a very open sky. Clouds, nothing to keep the warmth in, but it's nice and fresh, and I see it's going to be an amazing day today, I'm sure. It's probably going to be nice and hot, probably upper 80 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe even lower 90s, and that's going into the sort of lower to mid 30 degrees Celsius. It's all good for a very good day, and all we can do now is just keep on driving around and putting ourselves out there and getting into the right positions. That's all we can do, and I think this is now our little road to the hyena den. It is indeed. So, around this grassland, because there's often all sorts of other animals around, buffalo and elephant. Speaking of buffalo, maybe we'll bump into one or two of them here, but it seems like Taylor's found some, and she'd love to show them to you.
Always love to show buffalo, especially when they're out here feeding in the marsh. They're very relaxed. Someone's got bones, nice curvature to them. Doesn't seem to be interested in us. All the other buffalo are not happy with us. That one does not care. The others are sleeping. It's free out here in the marsh, because I've made the mistake of spending all night out in the marsh once, and you can imagine how the temperature drops. Obviously, we always see all the mist and stuff hanging around this area, and there's a lot of water. I wonder how these buffalo keep nice and warm. I wonder if they cuddle up to one another. We often see in big groups almost on top of one another, so I'm sure that body heat helps. But goodness, boys, very brave of you. And it does look like the majority of them are males, in fact. Most of them are. I can't see any cows, but you've got to look carefully, because every now and then there's the odd cow that's slipped on in, that's maybe been separated from her herd, and she's just hanging around this area. Now, the reason why we've come into the marsh, of course, is to look for lions, but we haven't had any luck so far. And I said to Craig, I said, oh, I think I may have taken us the dud way today, so we'll drive along the forest after this. We'll basically go behind the buffalo and follow that tree line to the south, and then turn up towards the northeast. And if we don't win this side, then we'll go check the 4x4 area and see if the Marsh Pride are around. They might actually be a little bit further north than I expected. We saw them yesterday, and they were on the move. They were looking for something to eat, and there were a lot of animals around this morning. Lots of buffalo, lots of warthogs, lots of topi. No one seemed to be too bothered, like they had been chased around at all. That's a big boy. Look at the big muscle on his shoulders. All crusty and covered in mud, just chewing away. But the marsh is beautiful, and one of the reasons why I like it is because none of the big trucks can come here. It's too wet for them, and then they get stuck. So it gives us an opportunity to hear all the life around us. So what I'd like you to do, I don't know if you can hear it, hopefully you can hear it, but I'm going to sit quietly now. We're going to see what we can hear. Maybe we hear an alarm call. Of little cisticulars, the odd rufous nape lark. I heard one oxpecker go drrr. And then there's lots of frogs and things calling in the distance. Now, I think it was M. Ruse, if I'm not mistaken. You're wondering, or you said, is it me? Or do these buffalo horns look wider? No, not necessarily. Actually, every set of horns that we see is quite different. For instance, that looks like he's got quite a nice sort of dip to them, and they come around, so that's a good set of horns for buffalo, especially for tossing lions up in the air. If they're biting on your rump, be a good way to get rid of them. Yes, I'm talking about you, I'm complimenting you. And then this fella's horns sort of dive down a bit deeper and splay out a bit wider. So it's all just got to do with sticks. I don't know if you remember, and there was one that had a huge set of horns. It was so wide, and it also curved around quite a bit. So the biggest buffalo I've seen have definitely been out here in the Mara. But we get some big ones down in the Sabi sand too. In terms of body mass, though, these boys are much larger. They're huge, in fact. One thing that I have noticed with the buffalo, though, is there are a lot more buffalo that don't have big bosses. And I find in SA, a lot of them have got a really big boss. So that's that part on the top of their head. It almost looks like it's a helmet. Like you can see, look, this one is kind of lacking it, and it's the boy, it's male. Whether it's just quite young and it's still developing, but I don't think so. Now, First Lady Charles, you're wondering how long do buffaloes live for? Well, unfortunately, they're eaten by lions quite often, so sometimes they don't get to live into their full lifespan. Hello, oxpecker. But I would say anywhere between 15 and 20 years old in the wild is probably the average age. However, I've never successfully been able to follow buffalo's life from start to finish, I'm afraid. You're not happy with us, are you? You can see, so now he's showing that he's unhappy with us. Okay, he's panicked. Why is nobody else panicking? Everybody, have you seen this vehicle? They look dangerous. Stop being silly. Relax. Well, I better not say that. He could come charging towards us. I don't think he would, though. He'll probably just leave us alone. Maybe he can smell something that I can't. You can see his nose is working over time. Is he there? Moving his nostrils around quite a bit. And buffalo have got a great sense of smell. And obviously animals communicate through all different ways. And they're very responsive to vocal calls too. We see it often when a buffalo is distressing, how if there is a herd close by, they'll race in to try and help that buffalo that's in distress. But the wind, we are kind of upwind of this buffalo, so I wonder if there's this interesting scent coming from behind us. So perhaps that means that we need to get on the move and start going along the forest. Craig, maybe we'll get those scallows tarocos, because you're the one that seems to spot them all the time. I'm not very good at spotting them. Archie and I tried so hard yesterday and we failed. We'll have a look again. We'll maybe start up there. Yeah, bye-bye. He's a silly buffalo. Right, we'll just move through this herd. And we'll keep going around and hopefully we'll see some cool birds. So I think today again, send in your requests on what birds... Oh, hello, Hummercorp. Sorry, Hummercorp, I didn't see you there. Send in your requests as to what forest birds you'd like to see out here in the Mara Triangle. Remember, hashtag Safari Live, or talk to us via the YouTube chat. We'll be keeping an eye out. But seeing as though we've got all those buffalo around us and we're talking about things that like to eat them, you know, down in the Sabi Sand, well, sitting with the Nkuhuma Pride, and I can't wait to see how much they've grown.
They've grown a lot, Taylor. I know you've been away for a while, but the little ones have gotten quite big. We've come to the portion of the morning where it's bath time, and we have a lot of grooming that's happening, getting all of the love out there. A little bit of a hug. And making sure everything's in the right place. Lions and leopards, in particular for me, are some of the best mum-children interactions that I can think of. I mean, look at that. And they really do spend time with each other. It's all reaffirming that social bond. So she's already groomed this one as well as another one. This is our female that has that injury on the back left, but you can see she still walks fine. And then there's another lioness that's lying over here in the bushes. I'm sure she's just going to go over a greet and also do a little bit of reaffirmation of that social bond. Or possibly keep walking. We'll have to wait and see. I haven't quite been able to tell if whatever they killed is near here or if it's away. I haven't seen them sort of trying to access any meat from any bushes that I can see. But I am keeping an eye out for just in case I've missed something. And she's going to lie down there. Now, the rest of the pride is still also quite lazy in the shade over here. Now, remember, lions sleep for about 16 to 20 hours a day. Sometimes a little bit less, depending if they're hungry, and sometimes a little bit more, depending if they're full. These lions are half full, let's say. And so I think that we will get some nice movement out of them. We've also got a really nice view of the tiny little cub having a little nap over this side. And since we had such good views of Thandi and her little cub, here's a little lion cub. Lauren, you'd like to know if the cubs will ever go off on their own. So, Lauren, they're a bit too young for that. This little one in particular, definitely not. The older ones are also still too young. And lions are the only large cats that live in a pride system where the females live in the system together. And they need that system. It enables them to be able to hunt larger prey, and also they're very social, as you saw with that grooming there. They like the company. No, I'm not going to say every single lioness. I do know I worked with a lioness that broke away from her pride and then had cubs and then never went back. And she used to fight with her sisters and her mum every time they came near her. So you will get some individual personalities there. Now, if these youngsters were to be, say, kicked out of the pride now at this age, they would have a very hard time surviving. Sometimes what you'll see, especially in larger prides, when male and female cubs reach around 2 years old, they'll split off. And sometimes they split off and then go and make their own pride, and sometimes just the males will split off. And sometimes the females will split off at that age and then come back a little while later, depending on what's happening within the greater ecosystem where they're trying to survive. I've seen all of those different scenarios. I've also seen a scenario where we've had a young male, and he was only kicked out by the dominant male when he was about 6 years old, as he really started coming into his own. And his mom used to protect him quite hectically. I think she was actually preferring him over the other male. Lions will inbreed up to 10 generations. Joan, you'd like to know when when the male lions get their full manes. Joan, they start getting their peach fuzz sort of early on, around a year, and then it starts getting a little bit longer, around 2 years. There you can see a little bit of the peach fuzz there. By the time they're about 4 or 5 years old, their full mane should be in. I've seen males get to their full mane younger than that. The youngest I've ever personally seen was 3 years old, and I was duly impressed. And then I've also seen it take up to 6 years for the full mane to come in. And I think it just depends on how many other males are in the area, what the testosterone levels are like, what the food is like. Sometimes you'll find with young males, if they've really struggled throughout their cubhood to be fed, that their manes will take a little bit longer to come in. And then also if they're struggling during the nomadic period before they find a territory of their own, it will also affect the growth of their mane. And I've also worked with lions. We talked about it a little bit last week. A male lion that climbed up a tree and fell out, and the stress of it made him lose his mane. And then, funnily enough, talking about manes, there's some females in Botswana whose testosterone levels are so high that they've grown manes. It's rare, but it happens. I guess it would be similar to female humans who grow beards. Now, speaking of beards, let's head on over to the bearded wonder and his beautiful leopard.
Well, our beautiful leopard has decided to obscure herself and her little one in the thickest of thick bushes. There she is, peering through all of that. And little one had a good suckle and has now disappeared, and I think is gone for a bit of a nap. You can see her spots actually in the back left of the screen there. You can just see a little row of spots coming out from the edge of the frame. So little one has found a little place to rest as well. I think it was thinking it was going to get some meat, but instead it's being led to a place where I think it's going to be rather left for the day. And it's an area that she's used before. There's a big fallen over tree that comes off the drainage line, and she has left that cub in that area before. When she was denning down in the Mulawati, she kind of bounced between here and that other den, and so I think that's why she's here. She knows that this is a safe point. She did cross the drainage and go to a little mud wallow. I think she was hoping there'd be water there, but unfortunately it's still completely dry, and so now she's just tucked herself and the cub up in this thicket, and I think this is where she might remain for the time being at least. We'll be a bit patient, because maybe what she's going to do is just leave the cub and drop it off and then kind of carry on and go hunting. We know that Thandi loves to have a good meal in her all the time. She's very seldom without a meal, actually, and so I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't have one, that she's going to be on the look for one during the course of today, or maybe even this evening. So we'll just have to see, but it'll be worth just sitting and taking it easy for a while and just enjoying the sort of peace and solitude of being around a leopard. The thing is, though, with the naked eyes, it's almost impossible to see her. She really is incredibly well camouflaged in there. Those spots and that coat pattern just help to break her up completely. And when you've got a bit of thicket like this, where there's sort of dark branches and green leaves and a bit of sand, her coloration and her spot pattern just really does blend her in, as you saw when we first started, as Fer kind of zoomed in or changed the focus, how much she can blend. Matt, you're wondering how far Thandi is from the kill she had a few days ago. Well, Matt, she's probably, as the crow flies, I would say about maybe just over 1 kilometer, so close to a mile, somewhere around there. But at the end of the day, it's quite far in leopard terms. So while that doesn't sound far in human terms, in leopard terms, it's quite a long way. So she's gone from right on the eastern boundary with Torchwood, which is where she had that kill, between the sort of eastern boundary of Torchwood and the road that runs parallel to that. And then she's moved the cub all the way into the central parts of Djuma. So she's right in the centermost point. We can't get any further in than where we are right now. It is as center as possible. And we're not far from the dam. We're about, I would say, maybe 300 meters south of where the dam is, so not very far at all. And she's going to have to be a bit careful, because it seems as though the Nkuhuma Pride are absolutely loving being around the dam in the last few weeks, or days should I say. They've been hanging around, kind of going from Gowrie cut line to the dam to quarantine to hunt and then back again. So it's an interesting kind of ploy that they're using, and Thandi's going to have to be careful, because the Nkuhuma Pride can obviously roam around anywhere here and could potentially cause trouble. So she's going to have to be on the lookout and be fairly carefully or fairly watchful as to what's going on. But it's good for us. See, she's calling. Is she growling? I don't know which one she's doing. It's difficult to see because she's far and I can't hear what she's doing. There's a francolin, so she's busy chasing the francolin away. You see that? She's growling at the francolin. She's like, get away from here because you make noise, and noise attracts attention, and my cub is going to stay here, so I don't want you anywhere near my cub. So she's just gotten up, she's lifted her tail, and she's growled at those francolins as if to say, that's it, you will not come any closer to where my baby is, and you get out of here because you make far too much noise for me to be able to stay with my cub. Let's just see where she goes. You can see that tail is just dipping away, and this is why it's so tough to find her. I mean, it is literally impossible to see Thandi in this. She's disappeared completely now, so she's gone right behind all of those thickets. I'm not quite sure if we're going to get another view of her. I'll try around the other side. There's another little kind of loop that goes round and cuts down towards the drainage line, so I'll try around that side, but I don't know if we're going to actually be able to see her. I also don't really want to go bashing around and hitting branches here or anything like that, so I'm going to try and see if I can get another view. And while I try and do that, let's have a look at what Steph has been up to, and I'm sure he's found lots of interesting things after the rain. Now, I believe that we're not going to Steph now, so I do apologize about that. Apparently, Steph has got no signal or something along those lines, and so, well, you're going to join me as I try relocate on Thandi and try and see where she's gone. Now, just trying to scan through this thicket, because you kind of have to have kind of eagle eyes when you're driving along here, and you'll see the fallen over tree that we've got shortly. Now, I believe Steph's audio is back and is working, so, well, let's go back across to Steph and see what he's up to and now that he can actually speak.
Definitely being treated to a whole host of things today. Not only are you being treated to Thandi and Cub, but you're also being treated to a whole bunch of technical glitches with our audio today. You know, it is just one of those things coming from the bush like we do, that from time to time these little gremlins creep in. But what's been catching my eye was we walked up to this tree. It's a particularly healthy tree with a huge canopy of leaves, very healthy looking black monkey thorn, one of the Vachilias. Vachilia is the new name of the acacias in South Africa, and a beautiful example of a black monkey thorn. And this tree has been blazed, as they say. In bushcraft senses, you'll blaze a tree like this, you'll take off a slab of bark to show people direction. So when you are spread out along a trail or trying to mark a trail, blazing a tree like this is a way to give people direction. It's a signboard. In this particular case, an elephant has used this tusk, to gouge a piece of bark off. And what's interesting is we can actually say that the direction the elephant was standing is right here. So where I'm standing now, the elephant used the left tusk and put the left tusk into the tree. So you can imagine this big elephant standing here and walking up, putting the tusk into the tree and then gouging the piece of bark off. Probably fell down on the floor. Here we go, right here. Fell down on the floor, and then the elephant, using their very dexterous trunk, then picked up the pieces of the bark and peeled off the inner bark. So peeled off this red bark. And this is what they were looking for. They're not looking for the outside bark. They're looking for the inside bark where all the transport vessels are. So the tree transports carbohydrates from the leaves down to the rest of the tree, and minerals and water from the roots up in vessels called xylem and phloem. And those vessels live between the woody part of the tree and the outside bark, which protects the tree. That's what this particular elephant was after, was this lovely bark. And what it would have done then, not quite as dexterous as what I am over here, is taken this and put it into the mouth. Now, I've never tasted black monkey thorn bark. It's not particularly bad tasting. Acacia or Vachellia sap is actually quite tasty. It can be quite a sweet taste. Can also have a lot of tannins in it. This one doesn't particularly have many tannins. It's quite pleasurable. I mean, I don't think I'd like to make a proper meal of this, but it hasn't dried out my mouth like I was expecting it to. It's actually quite pleasant. I might actually just swallow that and get it over and done with. Black monkey thorn wood has been used traditionally to make fencing posts, and it's relatively termite resistant. Beautiful for making firewood and for cooking on. I quite enjoy the smell of the smoke of these trees. It's quite interesting. I heard a friend of mine told me this fantastic story. He had a friend of a friend who moved away to New Zealand. And in New Zealand, they don't have outside barbecues because of the weather. The weather is rather terrible there and rains all the time, and so they don't have any barbecues. And one of the things that South Africans celebrate is our sunshine, and we do that with barbecues and lots of cold apple juice and meat on the fire. And we sit and we talk about a whole bunch of nonsense all day while we are celebrating that. And we use very flavoursome woods. I particularly quite enjoy knobthorn, a sister tree to this, but you can use black monkey thorn as well, just because it's a nice blue flame and it's got a nice smell. In any case, this friend of mine bottled some smoke from a fire that he had. He took an empty bottle, he bottled some smoke, he closed it and he put it into his luggage. And when he went to go and visit his friend in New Zealand, he took the bottle of smoke with him, and they opened up the smoke together and they sat breathing in the smoke from this bottle. I mean, can you imagine the picture that I have in my mind? These two full-grown men breathing in smoke from a bottle in the middle of a rainy New Zealand. But in any case, it was such a fantastic thing that this particular friend basically, helped his buddy just to reminisce what was going on, which I thought was quite nice. Louise, would you mind repeating PT Watcher's comment there, please? Sorry, I just missed the initial part. PT Watcher, you'd like to know, will this kill the tree by removing the slab of bark? In this particular case, no, because the tree is not being ring-barked. So the fact that the elephant didn't remove all the bark all the way around didn't effectively cut the and says that there is one here on this side that has there we go. So there we go. There's an old one. Well done, Seb. Thank you. So he has an old one where the tree was injured in a very similar way, and it's bolstered up the xylem and phloem vessels on the side of the injury to make up for the loss of any fluids, and has fixed itself. What it does do, though, a PT Watcher, is increase the likelihood of fungus going into the tree. Of course, fungus is the tree's greatest killer. And if I can watch here, let me correspond this. So, relatively hard, but come and have a look here on this side. I'm just going to go around this beautiful tree. This side here, there's been an injury. And you can see, listen to the difference. Let me put my microphone quite close here. So, a hollow noise, and that's because the fibers of this tree are being broken down in this particular area by fungus. And correspond that to this. I don't know, is it making a significant noise difference? I think so. Yeah. So that's because this particular tree hasn't had some fungus attacking it right here, whereas right here you've got some fungus. Now this can actually kill the tree entirely. So this fungus will grow and spread and will actually hollow the tree out. And in so doing, the tree will lose its vertical support structure, its anchor. and will basically fall down at a point once. But that's the way it is. The fungus balances out the trees growing plus, and so it needs to happen. Cycle of life. Anyway, before it flies away, we're going to be sending you all the way north up to Kenya for Taylor, who's got a bird just waiting for you. Sorry, no problem. We're not going to Kenya just yet. The gremlins are still around, and so you're still with me, which is not too much of a problem. We can carry on talking about why I decided to come here in the first place. One is the tree. But secondly, when I got here, I figured out that I've actually had an experience on this termite mound. And, you know, it's difficult to say, hey, Steph, where were you with this particular elephant or that particular lion? But in this case, I remember very clearly Jean-Ray standing about there, me standing here, and an enormous bull elephant standing just here. So the elephant was standing here, and we were on top of the termite mound. We had retreated on top of the termite mound, and I was standing, trying to make myself look as big as possible, with Jean-Ray on top of the termite mound there, with his aerial and his backpack on. And it was because this elephant was coming through this area, saw us, changed direction, and came straight back to us, and was giving us a little bit of our run for our money. But we managed to separate ways amicably, and so no harm done. But a nice memory here. All right. We are going to be sending you now all the way through to Taylor. She's managed to find some signal, and she still has that bird, thankfully. And so 3,000 miles north, off you go.
I've never seen the snake eagle. Brent has been telling me about a snake eagle called a short-toed snake eagle. And my book, unfortunately, does not do this bird any justice. So I've gone and Googled some images of a short-toed snake eagle. And it kind of looks very similar. It's very pale. At first I thought, oh, maybe it's a juvenile western banded snake eagle. But I don't think so. So I'm just trying to find pictures. I'm actually going to put short-toed snake eagle Kenya. The reason why is hopefully somebody's seen, a similar coloration. If it flies, it would be quite nice to see if it's got some barring under its wings. But you're more than welcome to also do exactly the same as me and have a Google, have a little look. But very mottled on the breast. Do you see that? And that's quite a typical characteristic. Almost brown flecks on the crown of its head, on the top of its head. And very yellow eyes, as most of the snake eagles do. I'm pretty sure this is it. I'm looking at pictures, and I'll show you one now. So I hope you're all taking screenshots here, because Brent has been dying to see this bird. And he's been telling me, Taylor, keep an eye out, keep an eye out. So let me show you a quick picture of the one that I found. We can go through a couple. Have a look. I apologize. I don't know if my screen is a little bit dirty. Actually, we can maybe turn it up. Oh, no, it's up. There we go. So, can you see that? That's better. Hey, Craig. You see how it's got the speckling on the breast? Let's go through a few more. See, it's quite mottled as well. No, it's not loading because I put my phone on flight mode in case somebody sends me a message. Okay, those ones are loaded. See, that looks more like it. Not heavily streaked on the breast, but it's definitely got some of those blotches. And very light in color, and you can see the flecks of brown that I was talking about on the top of the head. And not particularly big. I actually want to quickly open, I don't know if I've got it on my Southern African app. Let's have a look quickly if I've got it here. I'm going to quickly welcome to have a look at the eagle if you guys want to go back and compare. I'm just trying to figure this out. Identifying can be particularly difficult. We know it's not the easiest thing to do, especially new birds. And I don't think I would have even guessed this unless Brent had told me that there have been sightings, and I did look in my book. Come on, eagles, where are you? It's so difficult. I don't know if I've got short-toed. No, I don't have short-toed snake eagle on my Southern African bird, my app. We'll have to resort back to the book. But what are you all thinking? Are you saying yay or nay? I think it is. I'm trying to... And I can't see any others that the juvenile sort of... Maybe the juvenile western banded, but I don't think so. That doesn't look like a juvenile to me. That looks like an adult. The hashtag Safari Life, for all you keen birders out there, what do you think? So beautifully. Now, Michelle, you said to you it looks like it's the same. One more picture because my didn't get my exposure right there. Okay. I think it is. I really, really do. And what I will do is... Oh, no, you know what I was trying to do? I wanted to see if it was one of the smaller ones. Let me go back to page 80 and have a quick look here. So, in height, it gets to maximum of 67 centimeters. Black-chested is a little bit bigger. No, yeah. So a bit smaller than the brown snake eagle. I just want to check Western Banded. Western Banded is actually the smallest one of the snake eagles because they range between 55 and 60 centimeters. That's not particularly big. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look on my phone because I know I've got Western Banded snake eagle. Let me just check for juveniles. Western Banded. It doesn't look like it though. Those brown speckles on the head. Are you going to give me a juvenile picture, perhaps? No, I've only got adults, so that means I'll have to Google. Or flight mode goes. This is very interesting. Now, they're not particularly common around this area in Kenya. And sort of north above Kenya and a little bit further to the west that you tend to see them quite a bit. But they have been sighted, and I know that Tyler, who is up at Angama, he's seen them before, which is very, very cool. Lou, has anybody else said anything? Let me Google juvenile, let's go juvenile Western Banded. Let's see. My app, unfortunately, is not giving me... James Richard, you said you think maybe a juvenile black-chested snake eagle. Yeah, it's definitely not a juvenile Western Banded, that's for sure. Let's go juvenile. No, let's try black. I don't think that's a... Now, Stephen FC says it's a juvenile Western Banded snake eagle. I just pulled up all the Western Banded snake eagle pictures, and they seem to be a lot more mottled and brown in color. I'm also now looking at juvenile black-chested. No. Let me have a look with my binoculars again. I don't know. I just know that this time of the year we've been told to look out for the short-toed. Very interesting. That's so cool. Okay, well, I don't know what bird this is. It's a snake eagle of sorts. I'm going to send the picture to Brand. I'll have to edit it first. Just looking at, to me, it looks like this short-toed eagle that everybody's been saying that every now and then. Oh, well. It's quite cool, though, isn't it? That's what the most exciting thing about this is that we find these birds that we're just not 100% sure of. And we try and work it out. I kind of want it to be a short-toed snake eagle. I really do. But if I look at more images... See, when I put in Kenya, it brings up completely different images to if I just put in short-toed snake eagle. I don't know, that head, the coloration on the head. See, look at this one. Craig, can you come back in here? Please. Look at that. To me, that looks like what we're looking at. Oh, I've got something on a glare on my screen. I apologize. So that's a short-toed snake eagle that was taken in the Mara, in fact, or in the Serengeti, or somewhere around here. And that, to me, it looks the same. But I mean, as you start to scroll through, I think this might be a juvenile. Looks quite mottled. You see, they all look so different. I'm pulling up all these pictures now, and I mean, we have yet to find one that looks exactly the same. Yeah, I don't know. Interesting. See, there's it again, quite light. Anyways, I'm not sure what eagle this is, but it's very pretty nonetheless. And it's quite nice to figure out, but we'll have a discussion about it, and we'll talk on Twitter, even if it's after drive, if we haven't figured it out. But for those of you who are super birders, because I know there's some of you that are just so fascinated and never get a bird wrong, unlike me, let us know. What do you think? Is it a juvenile black-chested snake eagle? Is it a juvenile Western Banded snake eagle? Or is it the short-toed eagle, the snake eagle that we've been told to look out for? Very exciting. But anyways, I'm going to send you back down to South Africa now. Steph's on bushwalk, and he's found one of my absolute favorite frogs in the whole world.
You definitely have found one of Taylor's favorite frogs, but also one of my favorite frogs. This is a male bushveld rain frog, and he's on the lookout for a female. This is full grown. He's full grown and about the size of half the size of my thumbnail. There you can see. Look how camouflaged he is. Isn't that just fantastic? And the reason for that is because these male bushveld rain frogs will need to walk around to find females who live in holes. Females, when they become adult, will dig themselves a hole and not go very far from there at all. When he finds a suitable female, he makes his play, and if she likes him, she allows him to crawl up onto her back, where they exude a glue, and basically he gets stuck to her back, and she walks around with a little bushveld rain frog male backpack for a while. He transfers sperm to her, and then she secretes an enzyme which loosens the glue, and he then climbs off and carries on with his day again. Isn't that just the most unbelievable thing? So it's called adhesion. That is the type of amplexus, as the joining of male and female frogs is called. And he's very confused at the moment. He doesn't understand why the walls of his world are just constantly changing and he can't go anywhere. Let's put him down a little bit and see where he goes. Almost completely disappears into the bush. If it wasn't for him moving, which is the only way I found him, he would be completely invisible. That's in the open. Unbelievable, eh? They got a very distinctive call, the females. And that is what's so endearing. Very similar to the woodland kingfisher, and a variety of different cuckoo species, from the red-chested cuckoo to the African cuckoo. The bushveld rain frog, for me, is the noise of summer. And not only the noise of summer, but the noise of a wet summer. And it's when you hear these females calling in the bush that it conjures up images of soft bushes and dark puffy clouds, and it's very, very nice. Yeah. Now, Stanley, you wanted to know if this little frog can jump, and you've noticed that he's not jumping. Stanley, no, he can't jump at all. They're not a jumping species of frog, unlike the grass frogs. So if you are sitting in an area where you can sort of research something fairly easily, go and have a look at the grass frogs. They are South Africa's and one of the world's best jumping frogs, and you'll notice that the body shape of the grass frog is very, very different to the body shape of the bushveld rain frog. The bushveld rain frog is a squat little frog. The females have got these digging front legs that they can dig with, and quite a round body, whereas the grass frog has got a triangular body with huge legs that they can use to jump from one reed to another, and they need that to get away from predators, either in the water where you've got a high degree of cohesion between the water and the frog itself. He needs that power to jump away from a predator, to get rid of to break the bond that the water has on him, or to jump away on a very swayy or very flexible river piece of grass. These frogs, they don't have the same challenges, and so they never had to evolve massively powerful jumping legs to be able to overcome those challenges. So two very, very different ways of locomotion, and it's because of the environments that you find them in. The grass frogs are predominantly found in water and ponds and soft vegetation, whereas the bushveld rain frogs are found in environments like this, which requires them to be able to dig away from the sun to maintain moisture. And the semi-porous skin, or the permeable skin, and that is why I put that frog down very soon after showing it to you, mainly because you don't want your sweats and salts to go into those frogs. So bad idea to pick up frogs in general, just as a note for everybody. And on that note, why don't we send you over to Tristan to go and have a catch up with what he's been doing.
Well, I'm still following Thandi and the cub. There was a squirrel that started alarm calling, and that sent Thandi on a serious walkabout. She's now gone a long way to the east. She's moving this cub further and further. We went past the old den site that she spent a lot of time around Christmas and New Year's in the drainage line, and now we're still mobile in a sort of east-northeasterly direction. The problem is we're going up to where Noel is. We're not very far from that area now, and she's kind of heading in that direction. So I'm hoping that she stops soon. It is starting to get incredibly thick in here, and so I think she's just trying to look for a nice place just to hide the cub for the day. So we're just trying to keep up with her through this thicket. You can see she kind of keeps her tail up through this because the grass is quite long, it's quite dense, and so for the little cub to be able to see her, the tail stays up most of the time. There's not too many birds alarm calling or anything like that. It's more for the sake of the little one just to know exactly where mom is. And you can see the little one's not concerned at all. It's just exploring. It's been up every single fallen over tree that it can find. It's tried to go up. So the two of them are still just meandering along, and hopefully they'll stop soon. I don't want them to get too close, that there's some sort of an alarm call that will sort of create some attention, and maybe those lions then get up and move in this area. She needs to try and stay as quiet as possible through here. So it's also why I'm not trying to drive too close to them, just allowing them to kind of go and drift, and then I try and relocate them as they go. But we will have to try to move now because that is an impenetrable fortress behind there. So we're going to have to try and just get around this thicket. It's not too far. There's a little kind of sort of opening that comes up. And in fact, we're actually not very far now that I see where we are from her original den site. So the first den site that she had, the one where she went in with the suckle marks and into the termite mound before we ever even saw the cub. So that's where it seems as though she's actually going now, which is quite interesting. I'm quite surprised that she's heading in that direction. But I can see why she likes it in here. It's so dense and so thick. It is nice for a leopard just to hide out and not be seen at all. I can't even see her anymore. I've lost her completely. I think she's somewhere in this little thicket on my